You want to mute the YouTube volume if you can.
Mute the laptop.
Yeah.
Hello, can you guys see us? Can you guys hear us?
30 seconds they'll reply with joking.
All right. Well, if you guys can see us, welcome to the animation roundup with the whole crew of CGTarian. And so I'm gonna go down the line. So we have David Stodolny, Rebecca Perez, Chris Cordingley, JP Sands, Thomas Grummt, Joe Bowers, and Shannon Thomas, and me, Jalil Sadool. So let me see if you guys can you guys hear us? Hopefully there's a delay, yeah. So we'll just keep an eye on this to see if you guys can actually hear us.
Yes,
we got it. Yes, yay!
Success.
All right, thank you for coming. That was great, you guys.
Awesome. At least now we know that you guys can actually hear us and see us. Okay, cool. So we wanted to say thank you for an amazing CTN. I think that was an awesome 3 days for us. All of us lost our voices, but it was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of you guys and gauge the interest about CGTarian and talk about animation, which we love to do. We asked for a few questions, but we don't have any questions, so we're gonna start with one of our own topic that we wanted to talk about, focusing mostly on students. But guys, feel free. We're gonna be here for another hour and a half, so send us questions. Don't be shy. We're just gonna talk about anything animation, whatever you have in mind. What do we eat for breakfast as an animator? Maybe if you want to know that as well, we can totally do that. Oh, and we also wanted to congratulate Thomas Grummt. So Thomas Grummt is nominated for an Annie Award, which is the highest award you can give an animator.
It's bigger than an Oscar.
It's bigger than an Oscar.
What's an Oscar?
So Thomas is nominated for New Dragon 2, and we're all hoping that he will win it.
Yeah.
And all right, cool. So our first topic will be they're all saying yes. Okay, good. So our first topic will be what did we say? Our first topic will be
demo reel.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about demo reels. I think this is the main question. Is I think for all students is the main worry for all students is how do you get in the industry? And we've all done it multiple times. Getting it, probably getting laid off, getting back in, getting laid off, getting back in. It's really tough to get in, but it's also tough to keep the job. But I think what we'll do is we'll just go and ask everybody what they think is probably the biggest thing they've seen on demo reels that needs to be improved, or things that they like to see. Things that studios actually are looking for right now, especially now. Before they hire somebody. Who wants to start?
I'll say something. No, go ahead.
Rebecca wants to start, right?
Well, the most common thing I usually see is just the lack of body mechanics or the strength behind it. So students tend to kind of jump right into like performance or an acting test between two characters, and when they don't really understand the fundamental like movement of how to create motion and the mechanics behind that movement. So that's the main thing I usually see. These kids want to just jump to the next most exciting thing, and mechanics isn't exactly exciting.
We've all done it.
Right? Yeah, everybody's guilty of it, but that's the most common mistake.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think mechanics being the thing that's the foundation to acting. You need to make sure that your mechanics is solid before you even get into performance.
Yeah.
I actually did that when I was learning. I jumped straight in a little mechanics and I just went straight to performance, and I had the hardest time. And I was like, performance is so freaking hard, which it is, but it was harder because I was fighting my lack of understanding of mechanics. Yeah. It was just, you're setting yourself up for a hard time.
That actually happened to me, and I'm a good example of what not to do, which was when I first started, I went to a 4-year college all about computer animation. And when we start animating, all we want to do is just do something big, right? We want to do like a short film. We want to do a huge dialogue test with like 3 characters, and that's my mentality. I just couldn't wait to do that. So I feel like I jumped ahead, like you were saying, and I never concentrated on the fundamentals. And I jumped ahead in my demo reel, even if it was pretty because of the renders. It consisted a lot about acting and everything. When I graduated, I actually applied everywhere, and I got 0 replies. 0. Actually, one company, which was Blue Sky, they said, thank you, but no thank you. And I was like, all right, well, at least I got a reply.
Yeah.
But that made me realize, what, I'm not ready, and I looked at my demo reel and said, okay, what am I doing wrong? Because I have acting stuff, and I thought, companies like to see the acting stuff and thought process and all that juicy stuff. And that's what I thought I had. But when you look at it, that's exactly what I was missing. I was missing the fundamentals, the execution, the body mechanics, the everything. And I literally had to go back and, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go from the beginning. And I literally started from like the bouncing ball just to practice. And I said, okay, I'm just going to make sure I know it all. And just to make sure I'll go from zero. And literally a year and 2 days later, the company that said no actually said yes. So I have my Blue Sky, actually is how I got in. It was a year later, and my demo reel is actually simpler, the one that I got in, than the one that I originally applied. The one that I originally applied had all these acting and performances and all this crazy stuff. And the demo reel that they hired me on, I literally had bouncing balls. I had like little walk cycles and little body mechanic stuff. And that was my main stuff. And because they know that I had my fundamentals there, they figure, okay, he knows it. Acting stuff can come later. And yeah, I was a perfect example.
Yeah, and I do believe that when you're in school, you tend to really want to do something really big, the big story. It's awesome because if you get to do a short and it's amazing, that's great. But the odds of it being amazing, you have to be realistic. If you're doing a short alone, you're rigging, modeling, lighting, and everything, it's rare that it's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want a job in animation, and do actually animation, it's good you focus on animation. Actually, we have Shannon Thomas here, who is our modeler at CGTarian, and maybe demo reels. I'm sure demo reels are different. What would you say about the modeling?
I had one question for you guys as an outside modeler. Like, how long? Because I was going to talk about how much to put on your modeling demo reel, which sometimes it's way too much stuff. But before I go into that, I want to ask, like, just an animation demo reel. How long should it be? Should it be like
not more than 2
seconds?
minutes?
Yeah,
Like
no
2
more.
minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, how many different things do you need? Because like modeling, I think 3 is like, you get 3 good models. That's
all you
good.
need.
Yeah.
I would say, if I usually say for students, it should be at least about a minute to show, that you've done a couple different things. You have some variety on your reel. So between 1 and 2 minutes anywhere. But if it's 30 seconds of amazing stuff, that's fine too. And then if you're transitioning into professional, usually people say it can go a little beyond 2 minutes, like maybe 2-3 minutes. But it shouldn't be longer than that, because what you can't show in 3 minutes, that why would you need more stuff? And to me, just to go back really quick to the most difficult thing for me on a reel is finding something that sticks with people, like having this one piece that is a little bit unique, that is unusual, that is funny, that is entertaining, that people remember. When you've seen a reel, and companies and recruiters, they watch a lot of reels. Even animators, when they are involved in those decisions, they're watching a lot of those. But if you have something that people will remember the next day or maybe even the next week, then that's big.
Yeah, that's a good point. Should I go back?
Which is very hard to do.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
really, yeah. And that's short
Spoken
amount
as a
of
true
time.
nominee.
So for modeling, I was just saying, I think 3 models is fine. If you want to do creatures or hard surface, definitely cater to that. But it's also good to show a variety of skills, because you don't know necessarily what the next show that the studio is going to be working on. Maybe it's all like underwater and you have all hard surface, and maybe they don't need any of that. So I think it's important to look to where you're trying to go. Like if you're just trying to go anywhere, just have it like a hard surface model, a character, and maybe an environment. But if you want to go to Disney, have cartoony characters, cartoony environments, and show wireframes. One of the things when I applied to Dreamworks, I didn't have any wireframes on my demo reel, and they said like literally you have to. We won't even look at it without demo reel. And then I saw some student demo reels, and they literally just do Z-remesher to automatically create topology, and that's not what we're talking about. Like you actually have to put thought and purpose in your topology, so you have to think about animation and rigging. So don't just hit Z-remesher and do a wireframe, because that's pretty much throwaway. And yeah, so 3 good models is probably enough.
I have a question actually. What about showing like lens shape expressions? Is that
Yeah.
needed, or is that just a bonus? Or
I think it's just a bonus.
Yeah.
If you're like at Weta, they have specialized modeling just for facial.
Oh,
So
really?
they literally, modelers just do faces, and they'll do blend shapes all day and night. And But yeah, it's just a bonus. It's more like diversifying. So I think if you really want to work at Pixar, if you really want to work in ILM, like cater your demo reel to that studio, because that's what they're always going to be looking at. It has to either be super realistic or maybe not. But
And that's the same thing with animation as well. Know who you're applying to and cater your reel to it. So don't necessarily just say you've worked at a couple places or done some films and student work and stuff that has some creature stuff, some super realistic stuff, some mocap. If you're applying for a mocap job, they'll probably want to see what you've done to clean up mocap, as well as how you can animate in a very realistic style, so they know you'll be able to plus that. But then if you're applying to like DreamWorks or Disney or something like that, you'll want to definitely cater your work to what project you're applying for or what studio you're applying for, because just say you're applying to ILM and all you have is really cartoony fun stuff, they'll probably look at it and say, oh, that's awesome, that's fun, but that's not what we're looking for. We need to know that this guy knows, this guy or girl, sorry, they know body mechanics and creature stuff and how muscles move and all that kind of stuff. And then if you're working on something like, penguins at DreamWorks, and all you send them is big lumping creatures and all that kind of stuff, they'll be, that's awesome, but we're not looking for that. We need someone who understands how to push a pose to the max degree. And so really just cater your reel to what you're trying to apply for.
I just wanted to add, just as an example, I literally applied to Disney as well whenever I came back. And they said, awesome, your work looks great, but you don't have any cartoony stuff on it. So we need to see stylized characters. So
cool.
I ended up, DreamWorks said, hey, that's fine.
And I think one of the last things that none of us mentioned, but it's super important, is focus on the discipline that you're applying for. So if you're an animator, have amazing animation, not a beautiful render.
Yeah,
and that's a
good
huge
point. Don't
mistake
spend
I
too much
see.
time.
Yeah, don't spend
Just
time
play
in some other discipline. If
And
you want
also-
to be a lighter, then
and also put your
Great
best
lighter.
stuff. Remember, I mean, everybody says that, your demo is as good as your weakest piece. So always remember, don't put stuff you've done, as a beginning animator. Put everything you just finished last month.
As long as it's good, though.
As long as it's good, exactly.
That's one thing, because a lot of people just put their newest stuff. They're like, oh, I just did this really great acting piece, whatever, and just because it's the newest, they put it on. But you have to be honest with yourself and show other people and make sure that that new thing is better than what you already have. If it's not, tweak it, fix it, or don't use it, but make sure you're only adding good stuff and taking out your weak stuff.
Cool. All right, so we're getting...
Sorry, I know there's a question. I just want to add two little things. One is quality versus quantity. And I think that's main key. It's just, it doesn't matter how long it is. I've actually seen people get a job with 2 shots in the reel, and that happened at Blue Sky, and it was amazing because the quality was amazing. The other thing is, don't leave your second best shot towards the end. I hear that a lot, where you have a bookend, best shot at the beginning, and then the second best shot at the end because you want to leave it on a good note. I actually think you don't do that. There's a lot of companies that don't even have time to look at the entire reel. So as soon as they look at the reel, they'll hit play, they'll look at it instantly with 1 or 2 shots. They'll know if you have it or not, and then they'll go to the next reel. So sometimes they won't see your entire thing. So always put your best stuff at the very beginning, because they might not see the rest.
All right, cool. Cool, thanks, JP. All right, so we started to get a lot of questions, which is awesome. So one of the questions was, what made us? It was very specific to CGTarian. Why did we build CGTarian? And how many students do we have per class? So I'm gonna just answer that. I think the reason why we all taught at other schools. We've all had years of experience teaching for other, not only just brick and mortar schools, but also online schools, and we all figured we all thought that it was a good time for us to bring our own voice to a school, because we felt there was not enough individuality in classes, and it was being taught how we've learned it, but not how we are experiencing it every day. As an animator, you'll be learning, you'll be creating your own work ethic, you'll have your own workflow, and that's what we teach in our classes. Each of our classes are built the way we animate. So you're getting a very individual, style of learning and animating. But also, we felt this is more like a family, more than any like a big corporation. I don't want to sound like I'm trying. I don't want to sound like I want to hold everybody into a big hug, but that's who we are. we actually were not all friends before we built CGTarian. You know, we all got together because we all have a really good work ethic. We all do projects on the sides, you know, and we decided this was a good time to get together and make this happen. And it's working awesome now. We're all really good friends. We all respect each other, and it shows in our classes. And in terms of how big our classes are, they're really small. And we would like to keep it this way. Again, this is something that we might not have control eventually, but we want to keep it small. You know, I actually personally want to be known as the Gobelin of online schools, where it's tough to get in because we get more picky, and we don't let any of our students, fall behind. You know, I feel like a lot of schools, what happens is students go through it and they are just allowed to get to advanced classes when they shouldn't be getting there. And I really want, we all personally want to, to not let that happen. If we feel a student is going too far, we'll definitely stop them and be, hey, maybe you should take that again and do that again. And again, free of charge, that's stuff that we will assess this ourselves and make sure that each of us is getting what they need. Anybody want
I also think that just having the a la carte model, like I feel like everyone learns animation differently, just how everyone got into the industry in a different way. And some people may need to focus on mechanics, some people need to focus on lip sync, but you shouldn't have to go through a whole curriculum just to get to where you need to focus. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's like that with learning in general. And I think like everyone has the parts that they just get it, and then there's the things that you get stuck on. And that's kind of like what we want to do, is let you just take what you need to break that mental block or whatever it is you have that's keeping you from moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're awesome, actually, because there's a lot of people who have gone through other schools even, and actually a lot of students that we have are people from other schools that they went through the whole course and they're like, that's great, but I'm still not getting jobs or whatever. So because the studios will get back to me and say you have to work on this. So the great thing about the a la carte, which is sort of what we're calling it now, the way we're doing that is we have a whole curriculum. If you're just beginning, and that's great, you can take the whole curriculum and learn right from the beginning all the way up to super advanced. But if you've already gone through schools, but you're just hearing, I need to work on facial animation or body mechanics or something like that, you can actually jump to that. And that's a great thing about CGTarian. I think we're one of the only courses that allows you to take what you want and what you need. We're here to help guide you. And if you're sort of, like, you can send us your reel and say, what do you think? Where do you think I need strengths? We can totally help you with that. But I think the best part about our school is that we're here to help support you in what you need. So
awesome. So we have more questions. We have tons of really good questions.
No.
Good. All right. So I'm just going to pick one of the questions. What should be the ratio from walk cycle and body mechanics to acting on a demo reel? I think you kind of addressed that in terms of, so what is basically the question is, how much basic body mechanics do you need in demo reel, and how much acting do you need? And I think David kind of answered that earlier when he said you need to know where you're applying, and where you're trying to go. If you're going to video games, you might not need too much acting, even though acting will probably get you in. But if you're going for like Weta, somebody like or a place like ILM where it's mostly creatures, you do want to show a lot of weight, a lot of creatures, a lot of stuff that is more towards live action than a cartoon. But if you're applying at Dreamworks and Disney or Pixar, then you definitely want something more cartoony. Maybe less body mechanics. I think maybe more acting, which will have body mechanics in there. Yeah. So that's that.
And then, I think if I could just quickly add something to that. Ideally, especially as you move forward a little bit and you do more like assignments and you have more practice, ideally you want to combine the two and have either a body mechanics piece that has like an attitude, or it has a little bit of acting or a little bit of an idea or a joke in there to make it more entertaining. Or, the worst acting you can do is just, without moving the character around, just like talking heads. If you do acting, make sure that you progress the character through the scene and you go somewhere, or you do weight shifts and you move around and you have body language in there as well. So if you do that, and if you think about it that way, you'll have always body mechanics and acting combined.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we got another really good question, and I'm just gonna take this one. Is do we have planned a demo reel course where basically we'll help everybody build a demo reel and publish a course? Yes, we do have one planned, and it's planned for at the latest June of next year. That's what we're hoping, at least. And the class will basically be a follow-up to all of our advanced classes. You see, our classes work on their own, but they also work as a follow-up to, it'll be a follow-up to my class or to Mike's class, which is a facial close-up. But that class will basically be, you bring everything you've done in our courses before, you bring it to this course to polish everything. Basically, you'll get a full course where you can bring everything you've done in JP's class. JP's class, you know, all his stuff is all about just performance, but not really polishing the shot. So you can take all the stuff you've done there, bring it to this class, and you'll have a full demo reel review, and the instructor will look at your work, see what you're missing. Let's say you don't have anything to polish. You look at what you're missing, and it'll make you do that shot, what you're missing in your demo reel. So it's catered very much to each individual student. So you come in, and we do have a syllabus, of course, but it's very catered to your needs, basically. So yes, we do have that coming, and it's coming very soon.
While you read the other question, that kind of goes with CGTarian, and the philosophy behind it is that we don't give grades, and we don't believe in grades. We believe about quality. We believe about pushing each single one of you and challenge you guys to do your best and achieve the most in your learning capability. And that's one of the things about, like how you're saying demo reel is catered to each one of you. We like to think about it that way in each of our classes as well. Each of our students will be in completely different levels. And the great thing about not having grades is that we can cater to each one of you and push you in a different direction depending on how much you need to be pushed and where you are. And that way we can kind of cater to where you are and where you have to be depending on how you're coming in. So
awesome. We got another question, and I think everybody would agree with that. Who looks at rigging demo reels? Whenever you send a rigging demo reels, who look at them? Is it the riggers at the studio, or is it the animators at the studio? It's probably the rigging department. I think it's the rigging department. And again, that's a really good point. It should be probably both the animation department or the rigging department. But I think the rigging department is trusted with with looking at demo reels for riggers, and animators, or if there's modeling, I guess it's only the modeling department. Right?
Yeah, I would think maybe it was rigging, maybe like the animation TD, like
the animation
like
TDs, yeah, maybe.
It might be different between the studio too.
And it might, yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah.
we can only speak for like
that we work.
Yeah. Like when someone sends me, like if I know a guy who's a rigger and he's like, hey, take a look at my stuff, like I don't really know what to look at.
Yeah,
I can see if it works and stuff, but I'm gonna pass it on to the rigging department.
Somebody who knows.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
awesome.
Look at this.
So we got that, and then so if you're another question, if you're a 2D animator, and I'm going to generalize the question. The question was, if you're a 2D animator, how do you get into Blue Sky or Disney? So maybe the question is basically, if you're a 2D animator, how do you get a 3D job? Or maybe no, maybe that's not the question. Maybe the question is, are there still 2D animation out there in these big studios?
Well, that's two very big different
I
questions.
know. Anybody wants to take these?
I will say when I worked at, you want to go?
I can take this because I actually went to school for 2D animation. So I went through a full three-year program doing 2D, and then I got into the industry. I'm like, all right, hire me. Where'd the 2D go? And so I was, I didn't have anything to do because I've been working my entire life trying to do 2D. And then pretty much I got a job. This is also early in the CG, when CG began to take over. So I just showed my 2D demo reel to a company, and they watched it and said, okay, this guy knows how to animate. He knows how to do body mechanics and acting. So we'll teach him the CG. So I was very lucky in that way that I was able to just learn CG on the job. Now that there's so many CG schools and more students have quality stuff, it's harder to come in like that. So it's really good if you can have a really good 2D reel, but also that's why CGTarian and schools like this are great, because I think it's really important to still show them that you do understand how to do CG. So some studios, if you have like a really incredible 2D reel, they will talk to you and everything, but it's going to be harder nowadays to get a CG job just from having 2D. But so it's always good to know your 2D, I think, because that helps both ways. 2D helps CG, CG totally helps your 2D. And if you know both, then you have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm just going to talk, my personal stories. I got in because because of 2D and not CG. And I got my first job was at Rhythm and Hues to work on Narnia, which is completely CG. And my training was only 2D for 4 years, and I had a short, and it was a 2D short. So I didn't have any CG, so I had to go after college, go learn how to do CG, and it only took me 3 months to learn some CG, and it wasn't very good. When I sent my demo reel to these studios, I got replies from Blue Sky, I got replies from, and they were all interested. That's because they felt something watching the 2D. It wasn't like the 2D was amazing, it was just, it made a whole room laugh. And if you can move a whole room and everybody can, I think at that time, especially with Rhythm and Hues, they had watched about 50 demo reels right before mine. And it was all very much similar. And as soon as they got to mine, it was refreshing. So there's a lot of luck involved in getting a job. What mood the audience watching your demo reel is in as well is very, very important. So it's only afterwards when I was already in that that supervisor told me, he's like, you didn't get in because of your little 2D shorts. Even though that's what I thought got me in. He goes, your 2D was okay, your 3D was okay. No, sorry, your 3D shorts. Your 3D was okay, but we could tell that you needed a lot of improvement. But your 2D is what made the whole room laugh. So everybody was like, we got to hire this guy. So, if you know animation, you know animation. It's all about then learning the tool, and you can learn this anywhere you go. If you go to Leica, you'll be learning stop motion. If you go to anywhere CG, you'll be learning CG. If you get a chance to go into 2D, you'll keep doing 2D.
And I agree with that. I think, though, to kind of stress your point on David's, you still need to show some 3D work. Even if you have 2D, yes. Like even the attempt that, look, I can translate my 2D skills into 3D is very important today.
Yeah, I like to stress that especially because I got in through just CG alone, and I've learned a lot more about drawing since I've started at Disney, simply because we go over our work with 2D drawings. So when we show in dailies, we have the supervisors there and all these people with all this 2D experience, and they draw on top of our animation, and it's really hard to achieve in 3D, but if you can draw on top of your CG and make it feel like 2D, that's where the
that's what Glenn Keane did on Tango, right?
Yeah. Glenn Keane did that all over Tango. So it was just awesome.
Awesome. Can I stress a point about modeling? I think this just applies to the industry. Like I see it like 2D thing, like, oh, do I know 2D? For modeling, I think that's like sculpting. Like if someone can just sculpt like clay or whatever, that you can teach them the 3D. Like you can teach them how to use ZBrush or Maya or like, for you guys animating. If you can draw and do a 2D short, someone can teach you how to use Maya in 3 to 6 months, and just someone can teach you how to use ZBrush in 3 to 6 months. But learning how to sculpt and learning anatomy and learning form and weight, and with you guys with body mechanics and acting and timing, like that stuff is the core like foundation that makes people succeed, because the tools are going to change. In 3 years, everything's going to be different anyway. So learning the fundamentals, I think, is what makes you, what they saw in Jalil was like, all right, this person he gets it, so we can teach him the rest. So that's kind of
awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. So we got a lot of really good questions, guys. I'm trying to go through them and see which ones we've never talked about. So there's one. Do you whenever you send a demo reel to a studio, let's say it's an acting piece, do you actually include the reference that you've done with the acting piece?
That's good. That's actually a very interesting question, because in all of our courses and in any course, people have been talking a lot about reference and how to use it and push it. I would, for the most part, say people don't want to see your reference. Don't include it in your demo reel, even like as oh, look how much I pushed it. I think overall that will just come, because some people don't ever use reference, some people do. I don't think it's important. They just want to see what your end product is, and then it's how you work. Any studio doesn't care how you get the result. They just want to see an awesome result, and that's what they're interviewing you for.
Yeah, like I feel like when I do reference, it's this horrible attempt to try to figure out my shot.
Yes.
Look at it, it's like, how could this ever work? But I'm not looking at like, oh, I acted out the scene and there it is. I look at it, I'm like, okay, I could maybe use that, and that doesn't look, I don't think that would work. And then I piece together this horrible thing of me on the screen, and I turn the character in I sculpt a performance based off of what not to do from my reference. And if I showed that, they'd be like, oh my God.
And even if you show your reference and you're an amazing actor, which is rare, because that's why I think we animate with characters, because we're terrible actors.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
But if you're an amazing actor and you show in a reference, you're like amazing performance on screen, that really doesn't help you still. We're not going to hire you because, oh, he's an amazing actor. Like, like David said, we want to know your
The
finishing,
final product.
the final
We
product. Are you a great animator? Yeah, and that might actually hurt you because then maybe your animation doesn't.
They get distracted.
It doesn't
Yeah,
belong
because
to your acting.
it doesn't. Yeah, maybe your acting is better than your
Have you
animation.
thought of live
They'll be like, I have
action?
that T-shirt.
We have like a film division.
Yeah. All right. So we've got another really good question. That's, I think, is an amazing question. Is how do you actually need a degree or that certificate to actually get a job in animation? I'm just gonna take this. I'm just gonna take this before everybody just kills everyone.
You don't want to say it out loud.
You actually do not need. You actually do not. The art field is I wouldn't say very new, but it's now more accessible to the whole world. So people are getting adjusted to this whole. Wait, you don't really need this piece of paper. You don't need this degree. You don't need this diploma. You only need to show your work. We have supervisors at Dreamworks that do not have a degree. We have supervisors at Dreamworks that do not have any schooling. Actually, we have high school dropouts supervising us. That some of us have degrees, and that's
high school though.
Yeah.
We're not saying stay in school.
So here's the one thing though. You do not want to just quit school. This is more of a life experience thing. Is when you go to college, when you go to school. I went to engineering school before I even went to art school, and I thank God I did this because I learned so much more. Animation is about observation, guys. The more you're out there, the more you put yourself out there, the more you learn. The more experience you have, the more you bring it to your film and to your shots. And having gone through school, having done drawing, having learned how to do 2D design, 3D design, you learn so much about a structure, in your art form, and it shows in your animation. So now if you go just to an animation school, look at it as a bonus. Don't make that's your studies. It's always good to learn more things. Like I love having been an animation and a film history minor because I'm proud of knowing so many things about films and movies because I feel like I can relate to other actors that I grew up with, and that's to me is very important as a person. You bring this into your work as well.
I do have to say, so yes, I totally agree. Having a degree or a diploma or whatever won't, they'll just see your animation, and if you can animate, they'll want to hire you. Where it comes into play, though, to have that kind of certification is if you want to immigrate to the U.S. to a studio or emigrate to another country to work. Because I'm from Canada, and the whole immigration process to get down, I sent my stuff to Imageworks, to Sony, and they're like, yeah, great, come on. And then there was this whole uphill battle with immigration. And so they did allow me through after turning me away twice at the border. But they did let me in, but I had to show all this certification saying it was a three-year course and all this kind of stuff. They look for a certain amount of education to go with that to prove that you're kind of worthy of coming into the country to take this job kind of thing. So again, the actual studio will hire you if they like your animation. But if you're trying to immigrate or emigrate to the States, it's important to have that paperwork for just legal reasons, pretty much. So that's why I just had to say that is important if you're from somewhere else and you want to come to the States, or even if I wanted to go to England or Australia or anything to work. So
cool, awesome. So we got another really good question, and that's I think that question is based a lot on politics in individual studios. So the question is, how are you guys cast your shots? Are you typecast? Are you given shots because you're good at something, or are you just randomly given shots? Who wants to take this?
Randomly. So it starts out kind of randomly.
Yes.
Because people, they see your
on
reel,
each show, right?
On each show, but I've worked at Disney for 10 years, and slowly I've been getting more and more action shots and just complex mechanics and things. With some acting mixed in, but they do listen to requests, which is great. I'm not sure if that's the same at DreamWorks same thing. And that's awesome. That the fact that they take requests and they try to honor what you're interested in is really good. But when crunch time hits, they tend to they really need to get the shots done. They really need to get the movie done. So sometimes the requests don't get honored as often as we wish. Yeah, your strengths are really taken advantage of, which is great. because well, I'm not taking it that way, but utilize, yeah, and yeah. So they do tend to go in that direction when crunch time hits, but. Yeah, it's up to you to request that kind of thing and make it known.
It's also up to you to, if you want those type of shots, is to do your best in whatever shot you get. You know, whenever you get into the industry, they don't know how, you know, they don't know exactly what you're best at or where you will knock the shots out of the park, depending on the shots. They don't know exactly where you are. So they'll give you, you know, like C shots, which is like a reaction shot here, a little insert here. And if you don't, I mean, it's up to you to do your best. Every shot in the film is there for a reason. And even if it's a very simple reaction shot, if you knock it out of the park, they'll give you more responsibility because they'll know, oh man, he did this amazingly. Let me give him a little bit more. And then if you keep doing that, you'll get, hopefully, eventually what you like the most.
I talk about that in my class a lot, is like building a reputation because of consistency. So like when you start out modeling, you might have like a reel where you're showing different things in that, but it's a lot like what you were saying, where when you start out at a new studio or a new show, they don't really know you from the next person. So they might, unless you already have a reputation, I'm trying to speak for like new people, you might be given a prop and it's like, oh, he was given a table or a car or something that you might think like, oh, this is, I want to do the freaking character. I want to do, but it's like there's people that have been there a long time doing that. They're probably going to be doing the characters. And you at first have to be doing the table because there's 1,000 assets to build in the show and there might be 10 characters, you know, or 20 characters. So you have to do that table or that car extremely well. Like you're saying, you have to knock it out of the park. So they know like, oh, I gave him a shoe, but that's a really, really good shoe model. He did it in 2 days and it had great UVs. It was like, didn't come back. So take every shot, like you said, it's in the movie for a reason. Every model's there for a reason. It has your name on it, whether you know you are given it or you chose to get it. Just do it consistently and do it well. And then you will slowly be given more and more responsibility. And you might be given like, hey, we have 2 characters to do next. Do you want to do a giraffe or do you want to do an elephant? And you're like, oh, I really want to do giraffes or I hate elephants. You know, they might give you that chance. But like you're saying too, in crunch time, especially at Weta, like if they need to get a bunch of trees done and you're really good at trees and really fast, it's all about like the budget. Like they have to know, like if I give this person trees, they don't even know how we do trees at the studio. It'll take them 2 weeks to get up to standard on that. Where they give someone who's been doing trees the whole show, they could do, you know, a tree in a day. You know, so it's all about, you know, it gets to that point where it's a business and they have to just get stuff done.
It's also like attitude too, because if you want to get this certain type of shot or this certain model, but you're getting stuck with what you don't really want to do, if you like treat that like, well, like I don't want to do this, I want to do that, and so you don't give it, like you're saying, you don't do your best, you're never going to get what you actually want to do. Because it's like, cycle. Well, he can't even do the reaction shot, or he can't even model the shoe. Why should we give him a chance? Like, but if they like, well, he kicked ass on that shoe, let's, you know, like you say, let's give him the
we'll get a whole character,
get a whole
costume, and see like
that's
what you got to keep that positive attitude and not like let that get you down. You got to keep.
Yeah, someone told me that is the sign of a good, I would say, good modeler as well. Now, you know, a good animator and a good modeler is somebody who can turn. Unfortunately, shots are graded as well. There's like C shots, B shots, A shots, AAA shots. You know, once somebody told me that if someone can turn a C shot into a AAA shot, that's when you know that's an amazing animator. That doesn't mean you want to make that shot just be, you know, you overact everything, you just make everything out there. You do it perfectly, like what exactly the shot demands.
Yeah.
If you can nail a C shot and make it look so good that somebody goes, oh my God, it's exactly what it deserves, what it needs to be, but you treat it like a AAA shot. That shows how good you are, and you will get your chance. You know, absolutely.
And that's there's certain scenes in movies, like Pixar movies and anything. There's like nothing happens in the scene, but it's a change of character, a change of emotion. I'm thinking of this one scene in the Incredibles where Violet just finally decides, okay, I can do this. She puts on her mask. It's a really simple scene. She just very slowly stands up and she does this tiny little tension in her lip. She tenses her lip up for a second. And like the shot wasn't really anything great until that. And it's like they didn't overdo it. She didn't walk up and go, I can do this. She didn't, nothing like that. They kept it contained, but they made the shot exactly what it needed to be. And that tiny shot has always stood out in my head. And that animator, I don't know who did it, is probably doing very well.
Absolutely. So we got plenty of more questions. How are we doing on time? So I'm just going to check. Okay, we're good. So the next question is adapting with. I mean, all the movies we all work on. Sorry, Shannon, I'm covering you. All the movies we all work on, are all in very different styles. For example, even at Dreamworks, we have a movie like Penguins, and then we have a movie like How to Train Your Dragon or Rise of the Guardian. So, how, as an animator, do you adapt to these styles? Like, how do you, from film to film, how do you adapt?
Let's ask the Annie nominee. I love you.
Yeah, it's I mean, it takes me a while to do that, and I'm going through it right now because I started working on Boo, which is about ghosts. So, and the animation style of that movie is much more cartoony and pushed than what I've ever done before. So, coming off of Crudes and then Dragons, and then just a little bit of Penguins. Now I'm working on this, and I have to really change my mindset, and in every shot I usually get notes like, push it more, make it more ghostly, make it more just like stretch things, do smear frames, which is great, but I've never done that before. So for me, it's more getting out of your regular habits of doing things, like on Dragons or a movie like that. There are scenes that are pushed, but it's still very, very grounded. Whereas on a movie like Now, you can do crazy things, like the character can stretch and break and do all sorts of stuff. You can scale the eyes and whatever. So it's more, trying to not forget about that stuff and put things in your every shot. Like JP's, he's always giving me notes about that, because I just started on that show, and I just tend to fall back into my previous habits of doing things the way I'm used to, but it just doesn't look right for this. And you have to go more, more Warner Brothers and a little bit more crazy. And it's really fun to practice that, but sometimes it is hard to change habits.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key, is researching the film you're doing.
Yeah.
Because we fall into certain habits depending on the film we worked on previously and how long you were on that film.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on it for a year, it's gonna be hard to break those habits.
Yeah.
And when you get to a new film, you just have to figure out the style and then research it.
Yeah.
It's probably the same as in modeling. You guys probably have the same issue, but to give you, I was at Blue Sky for 2.5 years, all cartoony, all pushed, and all about execution and polishing and spacing and just really pushing the poses and everything. And when I first got to DreamWorks, my first show was Guardians, which is completely the opposite. And I've never done anything like that, ever. And at the beginning, you struggle to find yourself and, okay, what makes this style, what makes it. And what helps is really the workflow as well. And I should mention that, usually your workflow would change depending on a shot, if it's a body mechanic shot or it's an acting shot. It also has to do with different shows. If you jump around from really, like I did, from really cartoony to really more realistic, your workflow does change. And when I figured that out, okay, I need to use my reference a lot more different. I need to use my drawings. Because I draw a lot, I need to use that a lot differently now for Guardians. Mm-hmm. And once you start realizing how you can switch your workflow to better cater to that style, it will really come a long way. And then after Guardians, I'm back on Boo, which is that style. So I'm like, crap, now I gotta go back to that style. So then I have to remember, okay, what was my workflow? Okay, I did a lot more drawings, I did less reference. Okay, let me go back to that. And once you already know your workflow, you can just kind of jump in, and you'll it's all about practice anyways. So it's just remembering your workflow, and you can kind of dive in. And what's great about animation, we all have each other to help each other on, like what Thomas said, him and I would help each other a lot to try to get the style. When I was on Guardians, a lot of people helped me a lot to try to get that style. And it's this is the way I use reference. I didn't think of that. And we're all here to help each other. And that's why I love the mentality of just be super open about it and help each other out.
I was thinking back to the demo reel thing too. I came into DreamWorks from Weta doing super hyper realistic stuff. And I really did struggle a lot too, trying to do Dragons, which was super cartoony and silhouettes and totally different. But you have everybody there to help you. You have these amazing, the best artists in the world to be like, hey, what do you think of this? And you get great feedback. So in a way, you're kind of learning on the job, which is a great perk. But then I just thought about demo reels again, and one thing that I don't think we stressed was get honest feedback.
Yeah.
Like, don't show it to someone. They're like, "That's awesome, man. Good job." Like, I'm always online looking at work and like getting inspired, and like so many people just write, "Awesome, great, looks great." Blah blah. I mean, and it's like, dude, like it looks okay. Like some of it's good, but some of it's like, yeah, you know, you kind of left that out. Like, and I just think like my wife is the best. That she'll come in, she'll look at something, she's like, his hands are too big, and it's like, all right, you know, like, you just look at it, and you know, I'm sure it's with animation. After you look at it so long, you absorb the mistakes, and you're just like, oh, that's how it looks. And so you know, you look at it.
And it's funny because that's the people that you'll end up going to the most. You know, when you go to someone and it's like, oh, it looks great. It's like, okay, and then, but then if somebody else is like, that looks like crap, you gotta switch this. You're like, oh,
I'm gonna go ask the guy that likes my stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, but you have that person telling you like right away, not even giving you any compliments, like, you know what, that doesn't work, and you're like, crap, okay, shoot, I thought it was good. So, but then next shot you get, you will go to that person because you know right away who will be 100% honest, and it will make your shot better.
And it doesn't always have to be an animator or a modeler. Like say, like like my wife, you know, she's a social worker, so she would walk up and see something I'm animating, and she goes, "That part looks weird," and I'm like,
2 seconds.
Like she doesn't, she can't give
She
you
drops
like,
the mic.
yeah, like she can't give you an animation note of why it's weird. She just knows as a viewer, as an audience, that feels weird. And then I look at that spot and I'm like, oh, the spacing's off or something. There's no arcs there. That's why, like, she felt it, but she couldn't articulate because she doesn't have.
And that's probably the best feedback.
Yeah,
something that's
audience.
not an animation because that's what we do. We don't do it for other animators. We do it for the audience.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you show to between animators, we'll look at like either the execution or like, okay, the flourishy part or something, or like, oh, I really like this acting part. But then when you look at an audience, like, I'm not sure what the character is really feeling. And it's like, oh crap, you know, we were kind of looking at something else. Like, that's awesome. Can I show your Wesons?
Yeah.
She's doing real reviews.
I talk about that a lot in class, like especially between students. I'm like, critique each other's work because not only is you critiquing someone else's work going to make theirs better, but when you start critiquing, you start seeing kind of flaws in your own work.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you
and
start
you carry that
doing
with you on your next shot or your next model. You're like, all right, I got to look at the hands, make sure next time the hands are like, and then you just keep getting better and better.
And even when you do ask people who don't know, like your mom or a cousin or whoever who's not an animator, like you were saying, it's actually better when someone doesn't give you the answer. Like they tell you, oh, that looks weird, and almost like you need to find that answer. You know, that makes you stronger and like figure things out.
However, I think also it's important when you're choosing shots for a reel, be careful of who you ask. Like I'd say when it's coming time to choosing shots, you don't want to necessarily just ask your mom or your wife or whatever, because they'll be like, oh, that shot's cute. That one always makes me laugh. But which is valid.
That reminds me of you when you were a baby.
Exactly. Which is it's great that they like the shot, but I think when you're applying for a job, you want to hear from other animators, because there's certain shots that I love, and you know, I've shown other people and like, that one's the best one because it's so funny, but it doesn't show what you need to show when you're applying for a job. So just when you're choosing shots, at least be careful who you ask for.
One tiny thing to add before the question. Sorry, I'm sorry. Just one thing. When you give feedback, it's okay to be wrong as well, and you learn a lot from that. If I give somebody feedback, it's like, hey, what if you do this? And you're trying to help, and even if Thomas will say, no, well, I was thinking of this and this, it's okay for me to be wrong because I'm learning. As soon as I spoke out, I said like, oh, I think it should be this, and then if Thomas corrects me, it's like, no, I think it's this. Then I analyze it, like, oh crap, that is better. And already instantly, even if I was trying to help, I'm learning, and it's like the best way to learn as well while you're trying to help other people.
All right, cool.
And another thing, I'm just kidding.
So I've got two questions, and I think they work well together. The first question is, how do you avoid? That's for you, JP. How do you? Actually, for everybody. How do you avoid acting cliches? And secondly, how do studios out here hire? No, wait, that's not together. But do studios out here hire animators from abroad? That had nothing to do with it. So well done. Brain fart, but they're both for you though.
Oh, okay.
So acting cliches.
I would say my whole course is about that. It's just trying to get a more believable performance out of characters. And something that I start off by talking is that everybody here is everyone here is unique. You know, you talk a certain way, you walk a certain way, you gesture a certain way. You're always going to think a certain way. You're going to react to thoughts the same way. And the trick about animation is that we have to learn how to be diverse animators. We need to learn how to act differently for other different characters. And that's something that we see it as actors, like we have to see it that way. You know, we don't want to act exactly the same way for each character we animate. You know, if we animate Astrid versus Hiccup, they don't move the same, they don't gesture the same, they don't talk the same, they don't walk the same. And that's something that we have to do as animators, to learn how to do that and study ourselves and study our movements. And that's why we help each other out on reference. You know, Thomas might be the best one for like Hiccup reference. I might not be doing it as well. So I would ask him, like, can you shoot reference for me? For cliche acting, normally you would think of like the first thing, because that's what you're used to seeing. When somebody's mad, they do this, and then you're always going to do this. But I'm grumpy. But really what makes, I think, a more believable acting choice is when you're more specific about that choice, when you're more specific on how you do it. You know, every character, again, all of us, if we get angry, we're not all going to do this. We're all going to do something differently. And it's just keeping your eye, and I think you talk about it as well, is, you know, that mental library, you know, adding that mental library in your head, and even on your computer, just finding stuff that you like in performances and keep adding them into that folder or up here, and you'll learn how to, oh man, this actor did this, and this actor did it this way, and it's completely different, and it's just all about personality as well. If you know the character, you know what his thought process is, how old he is, mentality-wise, where he's at, whatever choice, if it gets angry, a little kid is going to act angry, completely different than human, completely from an introvert to an extrovert to an old guy to whatever it is. So just knowing your character, being specific on that, and knowing who the character is will help you make more specific choices for your acting piece.
Awesome. So, thank you, James. So I'm going to answer the well done. So I'm going to quickly answer the do studios out here hire people from abroad? It doesn't matter where you're from. You know, if you work, it all depends on the kind of work you do. I got lucky to get in. Thomas Grummt is on my friend Annie, so he deserves to be on. But it's like, you know, it's.
Where is everyone from?
Actually, you are from
Canada.
Sorry,
Canada. Canada, yeah.
He thinks it's a real country, so we let it go. So Canada, Florida,
Basically Texas.
Texas,
Venezuela,
California, Pennsylvania,
Germany,
and Mauritius. So we all from around, you know, pretty, yeah.
Stop making up stuff.
Yes.
Be truthful.
We are all from around, you know, around the world, but from abroad, absolutely. It doesn't matter who you. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're good, the studio will do, you know, will go far, you know, to get you your visa, to get you in. So it really doesn't matter. When I quit my job at Rhythm and Hues to go to Weta, I knew I was giving up everything. I knew I was giving up my visa. Basically, I was cutting ties with the US. There's no chance of me coming back unless the studio wants me back. But I figured I'm going to Weta. Hopefully, I will work really hard over there and get a strong demo reel that I could come back. And it did work out eventually. You know, Dreamworks did bring me back. But so it doesn't matter where you're from, what you do. No, it does matter what you do, but it doesn't matter where you're from. Yeah, what you do will stay with you.
I think when we were at Weta, they posted that thing where it was like how many people we have and where are they all from. I think at one point it was like 50 countries. It was like,
wow,
that's right,
from
everywhere.
Even Mauritius.
Yeah. Even Mauritius and Canada. Trust me.
I think even at Dreamworks, I don't know how many, but it feels like there's a lot of like.
It's like half French and half
Yeah,
everywhere
it's
else.
a lot of Europeans and
There's a lot of
French.
Europeans.
Yeah,
Lots of Europeans. So cool. So that was a really good question as well. So another question is, on your demo reel, we're getting a lot of demo reel questions. On your demo reel, do you ever put work in progress stuff? Or does it depend on what studio you work at? And I'm gonna lump all these questions in. Like, would you take stuff that, for example, you're working on a film and the film never comes out, or let's say you work on a film, the film's
This is a
out.
loaded question.
I know. I'm just gonna throw everything together so you guys can just have at it. And or do you put work in progress stuff? Go for it.
I wouldn't put blocking, or I'm still splining this out on a reel. But if it's like this is from a shot from a movie that came out, will never come out.
We know exactly what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? That might be okay, but
To that, I will say I'm actually helping someone right now put their demo reel together, and we're trying to figure out the acting pieces. And I told them, give me everything you've done, and we'll try to pick like the best stuff. And actually, he has some great stuff, but there was one acting piece that was a different character, and it was only blocking, very finesse blocking, like it was on 3s and 4s. But it was so unique on the performance and the character and how he gestured and how the physicality was so different for anything else that even if it wasn't polished, I thought it added a lot to the reel because it added that diversity that, oh man, you can do this, but you can also do this, which is a completely different character, different personality, different physicality. And it really showed that. So even though if it wasn't polished and spline, I really thought it added to the reel and showed more. But maybe I'm alone to that.
No, I would agree with that. It's it really depends. You want it, I would say, because I remember a couple of reels that had blocking on them that was really impressive, you know, and it was, but you only want to do that if the shot reads, you know, if it's clear what's going on, if the action and the acting comes across, even though it's not polished and it might be, you know, it's stepped on 2s and 3s or something like that. If it's entertaining, if it reads and it's really well executed, you can totally put it on.
Yeah, I think if it adds to the reel.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the stuff you did with Ray, because they were like on 3s, you know.
Right.
I think
And then like read really well.
for modeling, I would say just put finished work. I think work in progress.
That's
kind of like
here's half a shoe.
It's
Yeah.
like a quote.
Another
And you're
size
like,
of cube.
here's my turkey. It's not really done yet, but you can see what I'm you know, like, yeah, it should be done.
If you guys actually have something from a movie or a project that isn't out yet, find out what your studio's policy is on sending stuff out before it's actually released. Don't be dumb, because if you do it the wrong way, you can get blacklisted, which has happened to people we know
industry.
that it's a very small industry, and that stuff sticks with you no matter where you go in the world. People, once you work at one studio, you'll work with someone who works somewhere else, and everyone knows each other. And so if you leak something, especially online, if you post something like, I'm working on whatever movie, you know, Penguins or whatever, and 3 months before it comes out, you post a scene that the studio didn't want to even share till the movie came out, and you post it online like, look what I did, I animated a movie, and then all of a sudden you'll lose your job.
Blacklisted. You might be like criminal prosecutor.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to be very, very careful about that. Usually the thing is, like, you can start letting shots out once the movie comes out on DVD or something like that, or if it's in a trailer, wherever it's been publicly used and everyone knows already. But don't be the one to publicly use it first unless you have expressed permission from your studio.
Yeah, I mean,
because that will mess up your career.
Yeah, I have an example of we were at Rhythm and Heels, if you remember that. Somebody just wanted to send mom an image of Garfield. It was the first Garfield. They were like, "Hey, mom, look at Garfield," because mom goes, "Look what my kids working on internet." And they walked him out of the studio. They came in, picked him out, and walked him out of the studio. And I don't know if he was sent back home. I think he was sent back home, but
Jeez.
I remember
he was.
I know it's bad.
Yeah, you were there.
I was there at the time. I didn't know you. But I was there. That's crazy.
Is that crazy? Yeah, I know. We didn't know.
Small
each
industry.
Yeah,
Small industry.
Holy crap! Did we just realize something right now?
So we were there. Yeah. So
But you're my cousin.
So here's another question that I think is really good, and I think that's a question that I'm just going to really quickly say that it's do we ever reference other animation whenever we are animating our individual shots? I would say make sure you don't copy other animation before you guys get to it, but make sure you don't copy other animation, but you learn from other animation. Don't make when we're saying yes, use if you like a shot from, let's say, Robin Hood, Disney's Robin Hood, and you go, I love how they did this, and you go, I'm gonna put this in my shot. Don't just go copy that shot in. Learn from it. See why it worked. Why is it good? Why do you like it? You take the essence of that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, because I actually did that.
Oh.
No.
You did.
As a test.
I thought I saw my shot.
Yeah. Because like when I went on the Penguins, Jamal actually gave me a lot of reference to like Looney Tunes stuff, like scrambles and that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, look at how they did this, you know, and using that as a reference, like trying to get that style match. But then later I had a free day where I actually took a character and I took a Bugs Bunny scramble and I tried to match it frame for frame to make it work, you know, in 3D, just to see, you know, how that would translate, just to see how they did it. but I wouldn't ever actually put that in the movie.
Right.
But I did it as a study, and I think that's okay. Like I think it's
Study,
okay to
learn
like
from it. Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
take a drawing you like and to trace over it just to see
Absolutely.
like how did they do it, but then throw it away because that's not yours. It's a way of just like
You learn from it. You want to
Yeah.
study.
When I was in school, and if you're in school now, what I used to do, I actually used to watch. I remember I did it like in World to Eldorado and stuff. Like I would watch movies, and any shot that I thought was really cool, I would just kind of frame through it and just kind of draw out what I thought were the key frames, just to see how they did it. And you learn a lot because you start to realize that's how I actually learned about like layering your animation, like nothing all moves at the same time. Because like there was a pose like it was like this, and then he went down like this, but the whole body went first. It was just leading the action. And I had no idea about animation. I'm like, okay, this is starting pose, this is the ending pose. And then I frame through the beginning, and it's like, oh wait, the body's going first. And then I draw that, and it's like, oh, that is so cool. I was like, my brain was like, it just opened up. And that's something that helps a lot, is to kind of frame through stuff that you like. And even if you're not recreating animation, even if you're sketching it out and trying to figure out how they did it, that helps a ton. I
actually-
really suggest to do that.
That actually helps a lot too with live action, because we always say that in animation there's all this stuff with like lead and follow, and things don't move at the same time, and this moves first. It's happening in real life as well. Sometimes if you step through like animal movement and stuff, it's crazy what happens there. You would never think that stuff moves like that.
Mm-hmm.
So real life is way more pushed than you would think. I
And
guess.
sometimes you do real life, and your director will go, "Yeah, that doesn't work. It doesn't look accurate." And I've had that before, and I'm like, "No,
But
it
it's
actually
real. That's what happens.
No,
yeah.
but okay,
Yeah.
I'll change it because it looks weird.
Like
Yeah.
when you see a cheetah run at full speed.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like
Oh yeah.
Completely.
almost like yeah, I can't
Exactly.
fix that.
Fix that. So we've got another question here, and I don't know if this is a joke, but I'm not sure. But it says, do you know Dreamworks animators Push It? What do you think about this?
What?
Are we
Push It.
talking about
Our
Push It? You know?
the video.
Well, this is the director right there who did Push It. Is it called Push It?
Yeah, it was called Push It.
And what do we think about that?
I love it. I made
It was
it.
awesome.
I think almost everyone here made an appearance in it, but I don't know what you quite what you mean by what do we think of it. So I'll just anticipate sort of what you mean. We did that as just a fun thing. Sometimes it was fun to just sort of like get away from our desks and just we always laughed at 80s videos and music videos and stuff, and we just made our own version of that. So when we did our first one, which was the footage loose one, we just did that for fun because we were really stressed out on a project, and we were getting lots of notes and dailies, and we'd all just leave kind of angry. And so we made this as a parody to sort of just sort of get our frustrations out. And then just pretty much what happened was the studio enjoyed it so much that someone else asked me and the other director, Steve Meyer, to just do a new one. So we came up, what other 80s song can we parody? And so that's what it was. And it turned into a much bigger thing, and it was just for fun, but that's all it was. So we did it for ourselves, and then Dreamworks told us that we could post it online. We actually had to ask because we are using things around Dreamworks that we weren't allowed to. Ordinarily, we couldn't post, but we got express permission from
Like Jeffrey.
From Jeffrey. Oh yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg was in it, and so he didn't even know. He was a great sport. Actually, he had no idea what he was walking into. He just said, "Can you be in our video?" He didn't even ask what it was about. He just said, "Okay, I'll give you half an hour at this time." So we just set up, making sure everything was there, and then he walked through. We just directed him. He didn't ask any questions and just did it, and then
That's awesome.
yeah, it was great. It was fun.
Cool. So another good question: how stressful is it to work in a big studio, and how do you deal with it?
It's not stressed at all.
It's
easy.
That's easy.
We all break down and
It really
cry.
depends on how the production. Like at Dreamworks, every production is its own island. Sometimes it feels like they're run differently. I don't know about Disney because I don't know if it's the same there because it's kind of one show after the other. While we have shows in parallel, but it really depends on how much the producer pressure is, how much you're shielded from it by your production. And sometimes you're very aware of like how important it is that this is due soon, and you just kind of like, I don't know how do you deal with any stress? Like that's really, because there's a lot of stress there versus like say Dragons, for example, Dragons 2. I felt like there was almost no pressure being put on us, and we were able to really just
That was a smooth
animate.
show.
Yeah, it
That
felt
was
very
really
smoothly run. But as far as like how to actually deal with it when you actually have that stress, I don't know how. Like
Everyone's different.
Yeah,
Everyone's different. Yeah, I mean, for example,
Make a
for me,
video like you guys did.
yeah.
you know,
dance it off.
you find many ways to deal with stress, and you know, a lot of times you're stressed because animation is or modeling. You're very passionate about this. You know, any kind of art form, you put a lot of heart into what you're doing. So usually when you're stressed, it affects that. So you might want to go and be creative somewhere else. You know, for me, I go home and I write a story, or you know, I can go home and hang out with my daughter. I mean, you find anything that can relieve that, and you don't think about it. That's the best way to say it, is try not to think about work all the time. When I started animation, I would bring work home, not physically, but I would actually go home and be stressed about it, you know, and that's something that I've learned to deal with throughout the years. Is when I turn on my engine, when I walk into my car, close the door, I forget work. I only think about work when I'm driving to work the next day and go, oh, what am I doing today? Oh, that's right. So you have to these principles, you know, you have to adjust yourself to that and make sure you don't hurt yourself. You know, I mean, I'm sure everybody.
I was gonna.
No.
Oh no, I was gonna ask Chris because like.
Because he's so calm always.
Well, because yeah, like
Chris is like the Zen master of animation.
He's actually hovering.
He's
not
right
really sitting on the sofa.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, and because like the last movie that you were on sound like a very intense, stressful schedule. And Chris, whenever I visited Chris during that, he always was very like, you know, like he is now, just very calm. I don't know. It's
So Chris, what's that about?
Give us a secret.
Like you said, it does take a lot of practice to not be too stressed out all the time. That schedule was really hard, but
Which movie?
you're talking about
Big
Big Hero 6? Yeah, the schedule is really tough, but the management is very good at trying to shield you from some of the stress that they feel from the higher ups, and even given that, the most stressful thing about it is having to redo work or just getting a lot of notes and dailies and going back to your desk. But one thing that helped me a lot was simply basically what you were talking about, was cherishing your free time and separating the two. That was the most rewarding thing. And even taking time during the week to go out, like a weekday became like a Friday night because I didn't really have a Friday night. So like, 7 days a week. In a sense, you can kind of turn it into a good thing where if you're working 6 days a week, you have to take advantage of almost every day or different days during the week that you normally wouldn't. And it's actually kind of fun because you end up going out a little bit more than maybe you would otherwise.
Work hard, party hard.
Yeah, basically.
I will say too, everybody's different. You know, we all might be on this show, but for somebody might be very stressful when to somebody else might not be. And there's different reasons. Maybe it's a different style and you're trying to get used to it and you're having a tough time or whatever it is. Everyone's different in each show. And it's the same as like when you walk away from your shot so you can have fresh eyes. You know, if you look at your shot constantly, you don't have fresh eyes, you have no idea what you're doing anymore. It's the same thing with the stress, and I think that helps me. Is like if you start getting stressed a little bit about animation is what Jalil, what you're saying is back away from it. Don't even think of animation. Go do something else. So it's hard to do that at first because you feel like crap. I'm taking away time to try to solve the problem that I have, and I'm actually going to take a whole day without even thinking. Like I can't do that. I should go in tomorrow and on Saturday and really try to get it. Honestly, when you feel really stuck and you're stressed, walking away and not even thinking about it is the best thing you can do because you'll come with a much better attitude with fresh eyes as well, and it helps so much. I remember on Guardians, it was one shot that was just I couldn't get it. I couldn't freaking get it, and I was killing. And the stress came from me, which was the worst part because like usually we stress each other out. We are our worst critics. Yeah. So when you're working, you're like, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. So like I was really getting stressed. And then my deadline was coming. As I was like, you know what? It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I left work. And I remember I left, and I told the manager, I was like, I gotta go. Something came up. I just gotta leave. Nothing came up. I came up. I just had to leave. I was like, I gotta leave. And I left the day, and then I came in early the next day to make up the hours, obviously. And when you get there, fresh eyes, and I was not. And honestly, I sat down and was like, oh crap, you know what? My problem was I was trying to reuse what I was doing. It's like I'll just start over, and that was actually like I gotta start back from like zero. And I finished it in like 2 days. It was like the best thing, just walking away from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's also the stress of footage and getting your work done on time. And I think the closer you get to your deadline and you still haven't figured out your shot yet, it gets worse. Your stress gets worse and you start panicking, and it's like a diminishing return. Like you don't, you're actually just you're not getting any better. It's actually, you're just messing it up. And like, that's a good advice, like stepping away from it. Another thing is I just stopped caring about the footage. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take as long as it freaking takes. And this is going to be the last shot I do because they're going to fire me after this. And it's going to be amazing. And this shot will give me another job. And then suddenly I'm like, if I kind of trick myself into thinking I actually don't care when I still do. But it let me like stop worrying about that for a moment, and then
everything works out in the end.
Yeah, and everything works out in the end
The
because
shot's gonna
you
get
make
done,
the right
you know,
decisions.
it's gonna get done.
Yeah, it's gonna get done. And
I was thinking for modeling, like another thing we talked about before is like you can ask for help. Like I know sometimes, especially at Weta, whenever you're working crazy hours, you know, you have those stressful days, and we would leaving the office was a big thing we would do. We'd go surfing a lot. But like if you're having trouble with a model, you can always ask for help. You can even ask sometimes, hey, I know this is due Friday. Is it okay if, you know, maybe your next model is due in 3 days? You're like, why not? I can do that in 2 days. I can get a day back to spend more time on this. So sometimes the shot is due Friday because they're cutting the trailer that comes out in like 4 hours. Sometimes the shot's due Friday, but actually if you do it Monday, it's okay. So sometimes there is a little bit of a buffer, so you don't have to like.
You just ask people,
Ask your production.
talk to production.
Yeah. Communicate.
Quite often, you know, in our shows when there's like something like Kung Fu Panda or Guardians where there's like 10 characters in every shot. Sometimes, you know, your quota's coming up. You're like, I have to get it done this week. But you know, honestly, your work will suffer if you hurry it. So you actually go to your lead and say, can you give this character to some other animator? Because I think I'll hurry through this and it won't be as good as it can be. So they'll just get some people to actually come on and help you out while you're animating your shot. They'll do some of the background characters, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think production actually appreciates that more, that you're asking for help and that you're trying to tell them that you need help, rather than you like stay till 2 a.m. trying to fix it. Or
modeling is the same, man. Sometimes you'll have one model, like they're like, hey, we're gonna give you this, and you have that for 3 weeks. And sometimes they'll put like 8 models on your plate, and they're just like, get through these in 2 weeks, you know. And sometimes you'll be going through, and you're like, you know what? I know I'm not going to get done with all these. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll just give these 2 to this person because they're done already and they need work. So I think like, don't be like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself like on every shot, because it's going to get, at the end of the day, it's going to get done. The movie's going to come out.
I wanted to add something small because the question was about how stressful are big studios. In my experience, it was actually nice coming to a big studio. I was freelancing before that for about 4 years. And I found that to be more stressful because in a big studio, what you get is you get an organized structure. I mean, you know, some studios are probably more organized than others, but you get a big support system. You get production people. You get like PAs. You know,
sorry.
I totally agree with this.
No, I'm not. But in my experience, it was nice having this support system, because before I always worked in smaller places where you have more responsibility and a lot more of the organizational part is on you as well. And I would usually end up staying late a lot of the time because things needed to get done or things weren't communicated as well. So in a studio, like, you know, in one of the big studios, you have lists, you have dailies, you get emails about everything. So you can focus on the craft easier because a lot of that stuff is taken care of for you.
Yeah,
so
like
I enjoy that.
One job.
Yes.
And it's to animate.
Yeah,
I think another note as far as stress at work, and I also talk about it because I experienced it like early on, especially, is realizing that your work's going to change. Like you'll do your first pass, but that doesn't mean it's going to be what the director chooses. And as soon as you let that go, because it's so stressful when you go far and you're like, this is done, amazing, and then it completely changes and you fight that.
Oh yeah.
It creates so much more stress than just, this is the director's movie. You're making a movie for them, not you.
Yeah, you're just
So
let it go.
yeah, you're a tool. So like let it go.
You're a tool. Yeah, not like
You're a tool.
Not like my tool.
And honestly, to that, cherish what you're doing right now. Like if you guys are in our school or whatever you're doing personal, on your own personal work, it's a chance that you can animate whatever you want.
Yeah.
You get to animate and call your shots. You're your own director. And I miss that. I really miss that sometimes because like it's great you have the director and you got to do what you're director. But what you're saying, when I go back to when I was like doing my own stuff and like trying to learn everything, it's like I miss that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just doing your own thing.
All right, cool. So we got another question, and that's more towards CGTarian. How are we? I think we've talked a bit about our philosophy, but one student asked, how are we structured, and what kind of curriculums do we have, and how much time do we spend, with our students? Well, how we are structured is every single one of our classes are 12 weeks long. So we have four courses every year. And at the beginning of each week, you'll get a lecture video to watch, and you can watch it on your own time, anytime you want. And throughout the week, and you also get your assignment at the end of the video. And throughout the week, you will be on a group page where you will be in contact with your instructors, and that's all the time, all day. And usually, it should take us more than a day to reply to you, but it might take a day because if we're busy at work. But for the most part, I think we reply about an hour or two. I usually have my class open even at work. Maybe I shouldn't say that online. But so we are always there to talk to you. And then at the end of the week, we meet with you live. And it's usually for an hour, depending on the amount of students. The more students, of course, the more time, but it's a maximum of 3 hours. And we meet with you in a live review that we look at your work. It's very much like a class environment where every student is there. We all talk to each other. There's no individual time. It's more, you get to learn from other people's mistake as well, which we believe is very, very important, in a class environment. So at the end, you get your review, and then you get your new lecture. You watch it anytime you can, and then you get your new assignment. And then you can, as you're doing your assignment, you can ask those questions throughout the whole week. So we try to be there as much as possible, and so far it's been working really well, for the past year. So the other question is how much time. I guess I answered both questions. Yeah, is there anybody who wants to add?
Well, the other thing is back to the no grades. It's about not concentrating on should you pass or not. It's about just the quality of your work. We want you guys to get better, and we'll look at you individually. We'll look at your work, and we'll push you guys and challenge you guys as much as we can, and as much as you guys will allow us to really push that level and that learning experience for you. We really want to cater to you individuals. So not having grades really helps us on doing that. And I was going to mention something else, and I actually forgot. Great.
It also,
you guys want to take it?
what I like most about not having grades is that, first of all, grades is not what it's about. But I remember, talking to many students who got really caught up with the grades, or focused too much on that, and like, why did I get a B, or even and when that doesn't even represent what they should be focusing on. So it can be a distraction, and because no studio would care what grades you got. They would just look at your work, and that's basically what we do as well.
Cool. And the whole point of this course also is just so again, we have the curriculums for whoever wants to learn it right from the beginning, or people just to come in because they want to learn, just sort of specialize on certain things. But it's also kind of like almost like if just say you wanted to become a photographer, you can sign up for a course somewhere, and even if you've never picked up a camera, you can take the course and take whatever you want from it. Obviously, we want you to do the assignments and really get in, because whatever you put into the class is what you're going to get back. Yeah. But technically, my grandma, God rest her soul, could take the class and not do the animation or whatever, and just learn, oh, that's cool, I never knew about that. But obviously, she get more out of it if she actually did the. So I shouldn't be talking about my grandmother now. Sorry, the person could always just come in, and we want them to do the actual assignments to learn, so we can really help mold that character and stuff. But it's cool because you can, anyone can really take this class. So.
Cool. So we've got another question. I think everybody will get a good giggle out of that. Is how do we handle animating a joke? For example, this person was saying, I usually, brainstorm jokes with my buddy at work, and what works better, what's funny, and how do you make a movie funny, and how do you, So I might just start the conversation, but it depends on where you work. Not every studio. The person also was saying, do you lock a story before you start animating, and do you lock down your jokes? Well, the answer will probably be no. In our productions, especially in most of the companies we've worked on, actually, no. visual effects companies are different because stories are done way before the movie is shot before it even gets to us. So feature animation companies are slightly different. It's a more organic way of working where it shouldn't be that way. We all agree with this, that the story should be locked before we even get started. But for the most part, the story is changing as you are animating. And a lot of times, in a lot of places, if the movie is already 80% done, people will watch the film and go, it's not funny enough. And then there's this really bad practice of calling it a funny pass. And I despise this because you basically grab a film that somebody maybe had a vision, doing this film, and you destroy it by just putting jokes. A lot of times you find a character out of the film happens to be funny in one scene. And what a lot of people do, what a lot of studios do, is grab this character and start putting it everywhere in the film because he's funny. We get create more laughs, and that usually destroys a movie. JP, go ahead.
Careful.
Don't say names.
I also
say the name of the character.
I also want to mention that we are always surprised on what gets laughs when we go see it with regular audience.
Yeah.
And that's something that I should mention because sometimes we look at a screening 1,000 times and we usually laugh at a certain few things, and we're always gonna think, man, that's funny. Everyone's gonna laugh there. Everyone's gonna laugh. And then when you go with your family and we watch the movie and you watch it with the regular audience, usually it's completely reversed. The audience will start laughing at things that you never thought that were funny, and then the actual jokes that when they come up, they never laugh. And it's really weird. And it's like, here comes the joke. I animated it. Nobody laughed. Okay, great.
What's wrong with you people? It's a funny movie.
And then this really serious acting mode, people all start laughing.
Yeah.
But so to that point, like what's funny and how to animate a joke, you never know the end result, what the audience is really going to react to. But to me, the funniest jokes that really always land is the ones that are not planned. At least to me, whenever I see shots that are like from A to B and the animator adds something that adds to the character in the moment and it just adds a little something that you kind of giggle about. Those are the moments that you they feel more genuine.
Yeah.
When you try to like script a joke in a movie and then you try to hit the beat exactly in the timing, it's so trying to script the joke and trying to land the joke that sometimes it just doesn't land because there's too much science behind it. Yeah. But when it comes naturally and you animate a shot and you just add something in there that's kind of funny and people laugh at and it wasn't planned, that's what usually gets the most laughs.
Yeah, and there's something about like the timing of how you could animate something. Like you may not be able to control the joke or what is going to be in the scene, but you could, if you time it right, maybe you, like if that goes more to the question, how do you make something funny, like a joke? Timing, unexpected timing could make it work. Usually what makes a joke work, I think, is something happens that's unexpected, unpredictable, that kind of catches off guard and there's something maybe genuine about it. And too many times there's like the easy joke, like let's say, and maybe this isn't an example that applies, but I just saw a Shaun of the Dead for the first time a few days ago. And now think about a fart joke where someone just like, there's a fart, it's like, right? Because farts are funny, right? It's like, no, that's not why it's funny. It's like, and then in Shaun of the Dead, the way it works is the guy's friend just kind of goes, he looks at his friend, Simon Pegg, and he goes, I'm sorry. And he goes, what? I'm sorry. And then he like leans in and says, what? And then he just, his reaction is that of someone who just got punched in the face, and it's like it's something invisible. Like it was a fart, but it was funny because it was done in a unique way that has never been done before. Now you can only do that so much before you've just like burned out the whole fart joke. But I don't know if that's the same type of thing.
And the other hard thing is that what one person will laugh at, other people won't. So when you're pitching your joke idea or you're doing an animation or doing a scene, certain people in the room will literally argue to get that taken out. Other people are like, no, we have to keep this. And everyone finds things totally funny. There was a shot I worked on for Kung Fu Panda 2 that the director liked. I thought I really enjoyed the choice that I made, but there were like 5 pretty big people in the room saying, that's awful, take it out, it's not good. And the director, thank God, she actually agreed with me and she liked it, and so she kept it in the movie. Even then a year afterwards, I was working with this animator again, and he's like, oh God, I hated that shot. But then when I was applying to Disney, it was actually one of the shots that they saw and said, that's awesome, that's the kind of stuff we want to see. So again, it depends. Funny is it totally depends on the person.
So I've got go ahead, Jim.
No, I was gonna say like something that we do as well. And when you don't have a joke and you think something's gonna it's kind of like a blank page and you try to add a joke in there. Sometimes we won't show anybody and we will wait. This is what I do sometimes when I want to see if there's a genuine reaction. I wait until dailies so everybody can see it at the same time. And to me, it helps to see in dailies there's like at least 20 people.
Get the reaction.
And when you see it, you're getting a little bit of like what the theater will be like. And you'll see everybody react to it. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they don't. But it's a great indication. I was like, okay, that joke is landing. I'm just gonna keep fleshing it out or not. It's a good little.
Cool. Awesome. So we got another question, and we've kind of already went through that, but I'd like to bring it back a little bit to CGTarian. Somebody said that they were right now at Animation Mentor. I just want to say why. But then also, but no, I'm totally kidding.
It's a joke.
That's a joke. It's a joke.
See, some people found that funny. Some people didn't.
They were all really quiet over here.
We didn't think it was funny.
No, I'm kidding. We all have a lot of friends at Animation Mentor. A lot of us actually worked at Animation Mentor. But why we are different from Animation Mentor is, like we mentioned before, we're very much a la carte. You can take classes, in any order you want, whatever you feel you do need. Our classes are much smaller, so we get to interact more with our students. Anything else we can?
We created our own course.
We created our own course. So each of us individually, we've created each course. There's no one leadership that's created all these courses where they can, where they can all be almost bland. I'm not saying they are bland, but I'm saying they could be that. But ours is each of us are doing a class of something that we are very passionate about. So each class is extremely rich.
Yeah, and to the bad joke that Jalil said, we all completely love the online schools that are out there now, because as students, when we were trying to learn animation, we didn't have that. We only had to travel 3,000 miles to go to the school because our hometown didn't have it. And right now you guys have, endless choices now of where you guys can go. And
but only one real choice.
One great choice. No, but we're glad you're here. But we honestly love that. We love that you guys have that capability of learning from your desk in your house on your underwear. Not your underwear. We don't want to see that. Maybe we do. But no, we love the aspect that you can do it from wherever you want and you have the choices, and we absolutely love that. And the reason why we did CGTarian is because we created our own course. We're teaching the course ourselves. We created the videos for you guys because we feel like because we created our own courses, I feel like they're a little bit more specific and things that we think I've never seen that kind of talked about that much. There's kind of maybe one or two kind of lectures that kind of skim through it, but there's so much depth that can go into your class. I know we joke about it all the time, but your class is super specific.
I'm all about it.
You're all about it. You're all about the forces, but it's so specific. Or like David's the cartoony. We all have these or thinking characters just this, literally just this. There's all our courses are so specific. Some are general that we provide for you in case you want the general, and then we also have the very specific ones where you can really go into depth and really, hopefully, become a master of that specific topic.
Yeah. So you're saying it's specific.
Okay, cool. Because
I say it a few times?
I feel like you're taking the
you read my mind.
You're taking the experience, what you've learned through your experience of working, and you're taking what you wish you were told as you're trying to struggle through learning.
Yes.
And that's what I try to put in my class. I assume everyone is doing that. It's
This
what did
was
I
taught.
need to hear that made it click for me, and that's
Yes.
what I think it's special about everyone making their own class.
Yeah, and again, this is not random classes that we all just said, hey, you go to your class, you go to your class. We all actually sat together for weeks, at actually Dave's place, outside on his patio, and we discussed the classes. We made sure that there was a certain amount of overlap as you're leading from one class to another. For example, Rebecca's class is a class that we came up at that meeting. We all had an idea what we wanted to make, and then we were like, between the beginning class and Joe's class, there was a missing link. And Rebecca goes, this is awesome. This is what I've been teaching for so long, and I fit right in there. So we created a class because we felt, we were lacking the pacing. There was a huge jump, and we felt like students were being thrown into it too fast. We need to take a little bit more time so that they can really get the whole body mechanics thing. Cool. So I'm just going to move on to the next question. When you're working on a sequence, and you have basically 5 animators working on the same sequence, how do you maintain continuity? How do you maintain character? How do you maintain performance? And we're going to stay.
That's a good question.
You guess.
It doesn't always work. Sometimes things look inconsistent, but ideally, how it works is you will always have several people working on a sequence, and then the supervisor is usually there to make sure that, like, look at all the work, make sure that, you know, people make the right choices, make the appropriate choices for the character. Sometimes you have character supervisors that are in charge of, you know, the main characters. Sometimes you have sequence supervisors. That kind of depends on the show, at least at DreamWorks.
Yeah.
But they're more or less responsible for making sure that, you know, people do appropriate things. And then you can, as you're working on shots, it's very much recommended that you pull up the sequence and, like, look at the latest animation that the other people have done to make sure that your stuff fits in there. And then, you know, you show it multiple times in daily. So there's a lot of check-ins that you can make sure that that you're going down the right path. So I would say a combination of showing often and showing early, and then you have your supervisors taking care of the consistency.
Yeah.
And also just get used to talking to the other animators that will be animating the shots on either side of you. It's always great before you begin to go, you know, because one of you guys will start animating a shot before the other one. So go talk to each other before you both start and figure out what that will be. Because sometimes there's shots that actually hook up across an action, and you have to make sure that hooks up. So you want to make sure exactly what that person did so you can continue it, and also maybe offset it a few frames so it works properly. But also just, you know, the idea, the pose. Some studios will allow you to, like, copy a frame or, like, a pose from one shot and bring it in to the other shot. So that way you're literally starting with the exact same pose so it hooks up properly and all that kind of stuff.
And to give an example, it's like it's more what you're saying. It's all about teamwork. It's all about communicating and really trying to help each other. For instance, I have Jalil and I are working on a chunk together, and because of our schedules, I'm actually animating my chunk first, but my chunk comes after his. So I have to start my shot from where he's gonna end up, and he hasn't even thought about his shot. So it's something about, like, okay, Jalil, I need to start from there. How can, and it's literally about, like, planning the whole thing together and knowing, okay, I want to cater to what you're gonna land on, because sometimes you'll get to a point that you have to animate to a pose so you can match the other one, the next shots, and that's so horrible because it doesn't feel genuine. So it's all about communicating. It's all about Julie and I figuring out, okay, what's best for you, how you're gonna land. This is about talking and helping each other. And you, like Thomas said, you do have those supervising animators that will help kind of make sure the continuity is there and make sure you guys are helping each other. Because there's also shots that are catered to other shots. There's shots that help land the joke, you know. So you want to make sure that you have a nice balance and not have, like, every shot try to be a AAA shot. You know, you want to make sure.
Another way to do it, just really quickly. We had this on Dragons happen, I think twice, maybe 3 times, where one animator animated a whole sequence. It was a short sequence, you know, or those were short sequences with just maybe 2 characters. But, you know, that was something that DreamWorks has been trying, is to cast bigger pieces of a sequence to people if possible. And usually, you know, when crunch time hits, usually that goes out the window. But it's a great concept because it gives people ownership over, like, a piece of the movie, and it also makes it easier to work on it because they can take care of their own continuity, you know. And I think there were at least 2-3 sequences that were animated all by one person, and it worked great. So
cool. So basically, the main thing about this is communicate. You know, make sure you're communicating if you're doing shots with many people. You know, if you don't have the luck of getting a whole chunk, you know, communication is important on how you do it. So we have another question. That's a very technical question. I think it might be a little difficult for us to answer that, but, you know, we'll see. But it's how do you, and I've had this question asked, you know, to me a lot in the past, is how do you deal with moving holds? How do you make something feel like it's, if you want something to stop, that's probably good for you, and how do you want to make something more realistic when it doesn't feel floaty? How do you deal with it? How do you think about it?
So I think first you have to consider the style and how your characters are designed and how they look and how much they're textured detail-wise. So, like, if you have, for example, something from Crudes, they're very heavily textured-looking characters. They're very realistically lit, and if you did a still hold with those characters, it might be harder for the audience to believe versus a character from Frozen, perhaps, where the texture is, everything's very minimal when it comes to, like, how like the visual information you're being fed. So you could probably get away with a lot more like a lock hold for a moment. Like say Cloudy with Chance Meatball is a great example. You'll see it. They do solid holds, which
we actually had to do that on Cloudy.
Yeah,
they said hold as much, like if there's a pose, don't move it, and just like literally they allowed us. They said no, flatten those tangents. Let's keep that still, because just get a great pose and hold that. It was so much fun, but really hard to do because we were always used to doing more moving holds and just some overlap.
And it's always been kind of a taboo at CG to do that, but I think it actually there is a place which Cloudy proved. But so how do you do a moving hold, I guess, when the character has a little bit more visual information than full CG? I guess
I mean, to me, I found like going off of what you're saying, Joey, is, for example, on Rise of the Apes, I had a lot of trouble with moving holds because they can't just hold. I mean, they are so realistic. And when we were keyframing the apes, there were a lot of shots we didn't have motion capture. So we had to go and basically emulate motion capture. There was no pushing around. There was basically had to emulate motion capture. And we had to look at the person. I remember looking at Andy Serkis's performance, and I was
You're
like
the digital makeup artist,
right?
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So I basically grabbed his performance. I grabbed his performance and I basically copied it, and it didn't look good. And it was so funny because I know I did it 100%. I trust what I was doing, and it doesn't work because Caesar's proportions are so different from Andy's proportion. And Andy was acting like an ape. He wasn't quite moving like an ape. So as soon as you see his motion on an ape, that's what makes motion capture feels weird when you're taking a human motion and putting it on a creature. So I was figuring this out as I was doing it manually. There was no motion capture. So as I was motion capturing it, keyframing, I was discovering, this doesn't work anymore because it's just like motion capture and it doesn't fit. So I had to go and actually, do more studies on apes' motion, how apes would stop, how to get that performance through. So I remembered going to the zoo and watching, and luckily we still had the video for it, watching one of the alpha males there that he basically. He walked to us and he asked for an apple, and that's where we got that reference for Koba when Koba did this outside. He actually did this, and the guy that was feeding them threw the apple, and he got it. He got the apple, and a little baby monkey ran and jumped and grabbed the apple from his hand. He just did this. He just did, and he basically took another step, but he stopped. And I remember this, and then we found the video, and I looked at it and went, "Oh my God, they actually." Even though you're a realistic character, you can actually do these really harsh moving holds. So I went back to my animation. I put Andy's performance on the side because he was moving too much. He was trying to be an ape, right? So he was acting as if he was an ape. Too much. He was floating too much. So took all my keys, flattened everything, and all of a sudden it just worked. So it's honestly, you go by feel, but you have to study a lot to really find out, especially if you're doing a realistic character, of how to get this moving hold to work. I tried to do it manually without reference. It was tough. I had to actually go and find reference of real apes to get it to work.
Yeah, it seems like there's like a mechanic going on, like especially for realistic characters, where you're constantly trying to stay balanced, and whatever little micro motor movement that's happening to do that could be what keeps you from feeling dead, or like just the breath that you take. If it's more of a cartoony character, if you start going more into like a caricature of that, then caricature what that looks like. You're standing there, but you don't want to be a locked hold. Like, what does it look like if you're just doing a subtle breath, or if maybe you're leaning to one side or you're making a subtle adjustment? Like, what does the body feel like when it's trying to stay upright? Because in reality, you're not ever, solid locked. Yeah. So caricature that, I guess. Sorry.
I'd like to add that it's important not to be too random with that stuff. Because,
Control randomness.
And it comes down to those hard questions that you have to answer about characters. Like, who are they? Who are they listening to? If they're listening to someone else talking, where are they? Where are they in the story? Because it's not just a matter of pixel motion. Sometimes it can be a matter of pixel motion. You just need to keep them feeling like they're breathing, and breathing is actually a nice go-to sometimes if you need something. We're always trying to add that, and it's important to add breathing into your acting performance as well, not just layer it in afterwards. But breathing is a good way to simply add a moving hold. But I think most importantly, it does come down to who that character is, where they would look when they're listening to someone else talking, all that stuff.
Cool, awesome. So we've got another question. Thanks, Chris. We've got another question regarding our courses. And the question was, a lot of animation school, teach very similar assignments, and how are we different from them? Well, to be honest with you guys, I think, our beginning course, we start very similarly, and, with the ball bounce, we all did it, no matter what school you go. He's from Canada, I'm from Mauritius. We've done Canada, I know, I'm kidding. We've done ball bounces, even from being far away, and that's because, this is the core of, where you start. But as soon as you leave our first course, it all goes different after that. That's when it becomes because the beginning course, we all build it together. We all got together and we build a very beginning course, and we put assignments that people feel more comfortable with doing. Again, even we do that, it does get a little bit more different at the end of our beginning course. But as soon as you go into the next course, which is Rebecca's course, that's where it gets way more different from other schools. And we're not going to say what the assignments are, but they are they are much more interesting. Did I just say that? They are very interesting and different. So that's for that. If anybody wants to add anything, I'll find another question.
Yeah.
What are you guys working on? What are you guys working on?
Right now, I just started at Disney, and I'm working on Zootopia.
Rebecca?
Just working online, working on the school.
Working on the school.
Photo studios.
For you guys.
For you guys, exactly. Chris?
Zootopia as well.
Zootopia as well.
Working on Boo.
Working on Boo.
Me too.
Working on Boo.
I'm working on Panda 3
Yay.
before I go back to working on Boo.
Boss Baby.
Oh, he's on Boss Baby. I am on.
Lucky one.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's right.
Oh,
I didn't look.
thank God I went sweating like
That has been announced.
I'm on
guys.
I'm on Boo as well, but I'm taking a break. I'm going to work on Home for a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to Boo. So, all right, let's see. More questions. So I think it's about already, we passed an hour and a half.
Holy
We
crap.
want to take another one last questions?
Sure.
This better be the best question.
Best question ever.
What is your favorite cereal?
Yeah. If you want to waste a question, go
What's
for
your
it.
favorite acting choice?
Yeah. It's this.
Yeah, the W
No,
goes.
I don't know. I'm mad.
That one.
Let's go.
So guys, there's a lot of amazing questions here, and we will try and see if we can go through all this and maybe answer you guys, through we will type it down.
Can we
But
do it in the comment section on YouTube even?
yeah, we could actually do it
try.
right there through the comment section. If you guys want, just before we finish, we do have our character Ray. If you look into the description on YouTube, you'll be able to download Ray from there. And just so you guys know, Ray is still in progress. This is our beta version of Ray. Again, it's we've all been using it. We've been animating with it. And but we will be having a newer version coming out soon, which we will be able to make available to you guys for free as well. And we don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but it's going to happen, maybe in the next month or so. We are making some improvements to him, making him especially a little faster as well, because right now it's a little heavy to work with. But to finish, I have a last questions. Do you guys ever think about making your own films, making your own cartoons, branching out and doing? So basically the question is, would you ever want to branch out and do your own thing? Because you all work in big studios, you've already achieved your dream. So what's next for everybody? We'll just go down the line.
Well, I can answer that because I do make my own films
We'll
now.
make it a minute each.
Yeah. So yes, and I think that's exactly what I did end up doing. I was in the industry doing CG for a while. I love CG and I've learned a lot from it, but I did miss the 2D stuff. So I actually opened my own studio at home, which I do my own YouTube shorts. So check out my name on YouTube and you can see them. And but yeah, I do that as a way to just get back into drawing because again, I've learned so much that helps both of my crafts. So yes, I totally do my own stuff and hopefully that goes somewhere as well and becomes its own thing.
Awesome. Rebecca?
Yeah, and I'm also doing the same sort of stuff. Like I like modeling and the production side of things. I've always liked doing the artistic side as well. So David and I paired up. So we're both working on Stodolny Studios and actually creating a smaller company that can develop and produce smaller independent shorts.
Nice.
Exactly that. That, like we were saying before, you can create your own stuff. You're your own director.
Yeah.
And there's something free and exciting.
Are you guys hiring?
Yeah, we soon we will be.
Looking for a
Chris?
programmer.
Chris?
I do think about making my own shorts. Ever since college, I got a good taste of like how it feels to create your own short and like really focus in on your own story. Since I've been working in the industry, I've felt pretty challenged and fulfilled in animation, so I don't necessarily want to go home and animate more. A lot of the time I'm just working a lot and just focusing on that a lot. So outside of work, I tend to go in different directions, whether it be hobbies or just physical activity once in a while, which is nice.
What's that?
But it's called when you move your body.
Oh, that's
Move your body.
That's right.
Wait, you mean when you're on your chair or moving
Yeah,
mouse?
I do that already.
You get up, you stand on your feet.
What?
Oh my god! And you
What do you do with your hands?
Where's the mouse?
so many things.
Where's the keyboard?
Yeah. Other than that, just projects I'm working on at home that I've yet to release.
Oh.
Ooh.
Woo! Plug.
No.
Okay. Jibby?
I currently am just writing shorts and scripts for not really feature, but a
No,
lot
what
of
are you
shorts.
really doing at home right now?
What's that?
Working on your class.
But no, I like you're saying, like I love animation, and that's something that when I get home, I don't want to animate almost because I want to have that separate, that change, that balance, I guess, in my life. But I do want to get into shorts. I have some ideas that I really want to go through. I don't know what's going to happen, if I'll do it individually or pitch it or whatever. And we'll see where it takes me. But for now, I'll just keep animating.
Cool. Joe?
Yes, I mean, I've been doing little cartoons on YouTube, just kind of a way to.
You might have a lot of fans already watching.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Like, this is Joe Bauer, people.
Dover Bear!
No, it's just like a way of venting your having a creative output when you don't feel sometimes you get enough at work, because you are like animating someone else's movie, and sometimes you just want to create your own little idea. And so I've been doing that for a while, but I don't know where it's going, because right now it's just like the little jokes. This parodies based off of properties that already exist, because I mean a lot of it is like people enjoy that obviously, but there's also that part where if you make your own characters, by contract you don't technically own them if you're working for a big studio. So there's kind of like this, you have to write it, you have to carve it out of your contract, but then it gets kind of tricky because they start asking weird questions like, well, what festival is it going to be in, or where are you going to pitch it? It's like, I don't know, it's just for me. I don't know how to answer these questions. So
I'm just an animator.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been doing that. I don't know what I'm going to do with that desire next, but yeah.
Awesome. Thomas? Other than going to pick up your Annie? What else are you doing?
Oh, there's that. You know, I've done a couple of short films back when I was in school, in different mediums. Like I've done visual effects a little bit, mocap, but these days I'm kind of the same way as Chris. When I get home, I don't feel like animating much. So while I would love the idea of doing a short film again, because that spirit of sitting down with friends, coming up with a cool idea, and then doing it from beginning to end is really cool. So if that ever happens again, I would be happy to take
That's
like
awesome.
6 months off to do that. But these days, I want to get back into music, which I haven't done in a long time. So I'm hoping I'll have some time this year for that. But no short films for now.
So you also want a Grammy?
Yeah.
Now he wants a Grammy.
Shannon?
I'm not working on a short, actually. I'm doing some sculpting on the side with David Coleman's concept.
Oh yeah,
artist.
plug that in.
Yeah,
Like with
so
your hands.
with no, it's all digital.
This David Coleman.
David Coleman is an illustrator that he works at Paramount now. He's online. He's an amazing concept artist and character designer. So I'm working with him to create like a line of animal caricature sculpts that we're gonna then 3D print. And,
They look really nice. Yeah, there's an elephant one you did already.
Yeah, so
there's
we had
a
this
giraffe. Yeah.
Share.
Yeah, there's gonna be more of those coming out. So that's what I'm working on.
Nice.
In addition to
Post the
my
links.
class, obviously, that I'm building
Click
out
the
in the
link.
school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, click
Yeah.
right here.
Subscribe.
And with 12 easy payments. So.
I'm not doing much at home, to be honest. I just go home and chill and watch
Yes.
and play video games. No, actually, I've been extremely busy. With CGTarian, this is for me. It's been a passion project. I've always wanted to teach, and gathering all these fools right here and putting them together has been honestly a dream come true for me. I actually had a friend that I talked to 10 years ago that I told him I was going to make a school, and he sent me a message not too long ago. He goes, "Wow, you actually did it. You guys actually making a school." And that's when I remembered how long ago I talked about making a school, because I love doing this. But then I also love making video games. So a group of friends and I are making a video game. We built a studio down in Florida. The game is called Deadwood, and we're going to because all the characters are made out of wood and they're all dead, so they're all zombies. It's not really a Western. So we're going to have a Kickstarter here coming in March. So I'm plugging that in. Make sure if you guys want to support us, feel free to go do that. I'm not going to force you, but do support us. But yeah, so I've been not really in terms of film and shorts. I feel making a movie requires a lot of things I don't have. I just feel it's way too much stress for me. I'd rather teach, because I understand this better than making a film. But I'm always open to working with people that I know. For example, Dave. If ever Dave's called me and goes, "Hey, can you help me out about making a short?" I'm all in, because I know what he can do, and I'd love to join in. And that's where I stand with making shorts. But cool. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. So it's about an hour 45 minutes, I think. An hour, almost 2 hours. So hopefully
we prepared an interpretive dance for you guys.
Yeah, so we're going to dance, just like every good Dreamworks film. It ends with a dance, so we're going to dance. No, we're not going to dance, but we just want to say thank you very much for joining us and being with us for these 2 hours. We are going to do this more often. So for next time, make sure you prepare more questions. If you have, I know we couldn't go through all the questions, and honestly, guys, there were some amazing questions, and I had to pick and choose, all the different ones. But we will see you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you guys at CGTarian, the best school out there. All right, so cool. All right, guys.
Thanks. Now for the awkward silences, we try to figure out how to stop.
How to stop this? Let's find my pen, and there we go.
Bye,
Bye, guys. Bye.
Awkward.